The 2023 NFL draft class is 1 year into their NFL careers, and some players are off to very promising starts. Guys like CJ Stroud and Puka Nacua had not just good rookie years, but all-time rookie seasons, and their future looks extremely bright. But not every rookie is CJ Stroud or Puka Nacua. In today's video, we will be breaking down several players from the 2023 class and projecting how their career will go based off of what they showed in the rookie year and with the movements their franchise made this offseason. Bryce Young is on the thumbnail for today's video, and what's important to remember when doing a project like this is I'm not going to sit here and say I think Bryce will throw for 32 touchdowns in the 2032 season at his age 31 season, and then longtime veteran Xavier Legette will have 9 of those 32 touchdowns, and the Panthers will win 12 games and beat the 36-year-old Josh Allen-led Bills in the Super Bowl. No, this is going to project the next 2 or 3 years based off of what we saw in the rookie year and go from there. There will be statistical projections, team projections, and everything in between. Now let's begin. We are starting today's video with Falcons running back Bejan Robinson. Bejan was selected 8th overall during the 2023 draft, and the expectations were sky high entering his rookie year. He was the best running back prospect since Saquon Barkley back in 2018, and he was going to a good situation in Atlanta from a running back's perspective. He was going to play behind a good offensive line and even had a good running back to take some of the load off of him in 2022 5th-round pick Tyler Algier. Algier actually had a 1,000-yard rookie season back in 2022 and was nowhere near the prospect Bejan was, so I didn't think it was unreasonable for Bejan to have a 1,200-yard rushing season along with 400 or 500 yards receiving in year 1. Unfortunately, he didn't get to 1,000 rushing yards in 2023, but I think that changes in year 2. Part of Robinson's struggles at times during the 23 season was the lack of support he had from the quarterback position. The reality is you can have all the talent in the world at the running back position, but if a defense loads 8 or 9 guys in the box to try and beat you, more often than not, they're going to. They'll have a defensive player assigned to every gap, so each player only has one gap to read. They don't have to have guys 2 gap, which takes a lot of stress off the defense when they read their keys in the run game. This most notably happened against Detroit, as Bejan had 10 carries for 33 yards, and the Falcons lost with a score of 20-6 on the road. We bring this up because having Kirk Cousins will force defenses to change how they play Atlanta in 2024 and beyond. Michael Penix will eventually as well. This should not come as a surprise, but Desmond Ridder didn't exactly strike fear into opponents last year. I would be absolutely shocked if Bejan is not a 1,000-yard running back every year for the next few years. I was disappointed with how his rookie year went, not just because of him, but with how he was handled, how often he was used, and with how the Falcons built around him in his rookie year. He is only 22 years old, so I don't want to get into the running backs' careers are shorter than other positions discussion yet for Bejan, but what I will say is this. We often talk about rookie contract windows for quarterbacks while they are cheap, and Atlanta wasted a year of Bejan's physical prime, which is disappointing to say the least. He still averaged over 4.5 yards per carry and had a 1,400-yard total season. And he did this with a lot of cards stacked against him in year 1, which is a huge understatement. I think a 1,400-yard total year is really the baseline for what we can be expected out of Bejan moving forward, and if Atlanta runs more 11 personnel in 2024, which is what I fully expect them to do, then the box will only clear out for Bejan, and I think he is in a good position to lead the league in rushing at some point in his career. Touchdowns are hard to project for any position, but if he plays all 17 games in 24 and 25, I would be pretty disappointed if he doesn't have 1,200 yards rushing in each of the next 2 seasons. I know that may seem pretty lofty, but Bejan was one of the best running back prospects we've seen over the last 15 years. There are very, very few flaws in his game, and I think the sky is the limit for him moving forward. Next up is Jordan Addison of the Minnesota Vikings, and this is a tricky player to project for a few reasons. Addison had a great rookie season by any standard. He hauled in 70 passes, he had over 900 yards, and he finished tied for 4th in touchdowns with 10 on the year. Obviously, when you're in a draft class with guys like the aforementioned Stroud and Puka, you're going to get overshadowed quite a bit. And especially when you're on a team with a quarterback that goes down midway through your rookie year, and your playoff hopes are essentially killed right then and there. Also, the team has a rookie quarterback, and having a rookie quarterback, no matter how good the situation, is a huge toss-up no matter what. I think Addison is a very talented player, and there were certainly flashes of that in 2023, like when Justin Jefferson went down, and Jordan stepped up and had a 7-catch, 123-yard, 2-touchdown performance on Monday night against the conference champion 49ers. In his first 8 games, he had 36 receptions for 482 yards and 7 touchdowns, which had him on pace for 1,024 yards and 15 touchdowns as a rookie. This also included a game against Carolina, where he had a single target and had 0 receptions for 0 yards. So, needless to say, Addison had a really good first half of his rookie year before things that were out of his control naturally limited what he was going to be able to do. Whatever you think of JJ McCarthy, good, bad, game manager, whatever the case may be, he will have a great situation, and Addison will play a big role within that. Addison had 108 targets as a rookie, which equates to 6.4 per game. I don't think it's unreasonable for Jordan to have 108 targets in his second year with the team. 6.4 targets per game for a former first-round pick, and ultimately a player who finished top 4 in the NFL in touchdowns as a rookie, is completely reasonable. I know you may be thinking, well, what about Justin Jefferson and TJ Hawkinson being in the same offense, and potentially eating at Addison's target numbers, therefore limiting his production? Well, let's break it down. Jefferson had 10 or more targets in 7 of the 10 games he played last year, and really 7 of 9 games because he was injured in a game against the Raiders in what was a hospital ball of hospital balls thrown by Josh Dobbs. Jefferson only played 13 snaps, so I wouldn't really factor that game in. Hawkinson averaged 8.5 targets per game during his 15 games in 2023, and is coming off of a torn ACL suffered in December of last year. So Addison can still easily get 6 or 7 targets per game this year, and can easily be a 1,000-yard guy moving forward. 1,000 yards in a 17-game season is only 58 yards per game, which is something Jordan did 7 times in his rookie year, including 2 100-yard games. I know the popular thing to do is to project Addison to have a sophomore slump, especially with the touchdowns, and while I don't think he will be a 10-touchdown player every year, I think he can be a 75-catch, 1,050-yard, 7 to 8 touchdown guy even as a number 2 option. He's a good route runner and a great Robin to JJ's Batman, and he can and will continue to be a problem for opposing defenses. I really do think Addison is getting slept on heading into the 2024 season. Next up is Bryce Young, and he had one of the worst rookie seasons imaginable. He finished the year with under 3,000 yards passing and threw 11 touchdowns to 10 interceptions in 16 games played. To make matters worse, the Panthers were shut out in each of the final 2 games of the 2023 season, and that summarized not just Bryce's rookie year, but the entire 2023 Panthers season. For everyone. Carolina finished 31st in points per game last year, and there are countless questions heading into Bryce's second year as to whether or not he can be saved and whether or not he can be a viable franchise quarterback. Now, one thing you'd hope that would improve over the course of Bryce's career is his supporting cast. Carolina did a lot to improve the receiving core this offseason, but it doesn't apply to just the receiving core. The Panthers could not run the ball at all in 2023, especially while Frank Reich was coach, which was something that carried over from his time in Indy during his final year in 2022, before he was fired there. Now, Carolina added Jonathan Brooks in the draft, and they added guards Damian Lewis and Robert Hunt in free agency, which I thought were big, critical steps in the right direction, especially for potentially salvaging Bryce's career at this point, because that's where we are after a tumultuous rookie year. Now, I really liked what they did in a trade to acquire Deontay Johnson, and by acquiring Xavier Legette in the first round. Deontay Johnson is never going to be a 13 or 1400 yard receiver with the Panthers. At least I would be shocked if he is. But that's fine because he is a big upgrade relative to what the Panthers had last year. Aside from Adam Thielen narrowly notching a 1,000-yard season, the leading Panthers receivers were DJ Chark, Jonathan Mingo, Tommy Tremble, and Chuba Hubbard. And whether your quarterback was an undersized number 1 overall pick in his rookie year or any of the premier AFC quarterbacks, nobody was going to succeed in that situation, especially behind an offensive line that was awful for most of the year. So by the Panthers bringing in Jonathan Brooks in the draft, both guards in free agency, Deontay Johnson through a trade, and Xavier Legette in round 1 of the 2024 draft, and Jatavian Sanders, a talented tight end from Texas, in round 4, by the way, I don't see any way that Bryce doesn't improve in a big way in his second year. The Panthers also brought in Dave Canales as the head coach, and when you factor in all of the improvements Carolina made from Bryce's first year to his second, I don't see any way how there's not going to be a big improvement on the stat sheet from 23 to 24. I think we'll have around 38 or 3,900 passing yards, 22 to 23 passing touchdowns, and even add 2 or 3 rushing touchdowns as well. I like Bryce a lot, and I think he can have a 25 total touchdown season in 2024, and with the Panthers having a first-round pick in 2025, maybe they could even trade down to their own and get an extra pick in 2026, and maybe even use that as another first-round receiver. I think the improvements we're going to see are going to be gradual, and it starts in 2024 for Bryce Young's career. I really like what Carolina did, especially considering they didn't have a lot to work with to begin with, but I think the improvements are going to translate in a big way for Carolina and Bryce Young in 2024. Next up is Dalton Kade of the Buffalo Bills, who had a pretty productive rookie season, all things considered. Obviously, with the success Sam Laporta had in 2023, Dalton Kade was kind of overlooked, but believe it or not, he actually finished in the top 10 of tight ends in receiving yards last year. Granted, it was 10th, but top 10 nonetheless. The Bills made a lot of moves this offseason, most notably trading Stephon Diggs to the Texans and letting Gabe Davis walk in free agency. Between the two, that's 241 targets that have to be replaced, and whether you know this or not, Dalton actually finished second in targets on the team last year, only behind Diggs. Dalton also hauled in 80.2% of his targets last year, which is an extremely high percentage. Kade only averaged 9.2 yards per reception last year, but with what should be an increased target share for him, I don't doubt him having a 90-catch, 1,000-yard second season. I know that may seem pretty lofty for any player, let alone a second-year tight end, but the opportunity is going to be there even despite the Bills selecting Keon Coleman in the second round of the 2024 draft. The Bills also brought in guys in free agency like Curtis Samuel, Marcus Valdes-Scantling, and Chase Claypool, and it's not an exaggeration to say Kade can be the best receiver on this roster in 2024. He only had 2 touchdowns last year, and as a tight end selected in the first round with one of the best quarterbacks in the league throwing to him, well, simply put, I would be shocked if that number doesn't go up by a significant margin in 2024. Not only that, but I also don't think Josh Allen is going to rush for 15 touchdowns this year either, and those touchdowns will have to be allocated elsewhere, hence Dalton's numbers going up. I think a 90-catch, 1,000-yard, 8-touchdown season is very possible for him this year, and what will benefit him in a big way moving forward is Josh Allen being as young as he is. Josh will play the season at just 28 years old, and it's not crazy to think Kade could have his quarterback for, I don't want to say the rest of his career, but a very big portion of his career. Kade was an older prospect as he turned 24 during his rookie year, and like we said at the beginning of the video, I'm not going to project an 87-catch, 1,100-yard, 7-touchdown season for Dalton in the year 2030, but you can reasonably think that he will be a big part of their plans moving forward, and Josh is, well, Josh. And if both guys stay healthy, then you can put 2 and 2 together and realize they are going to play together for a long, long time. I see multiple 1,000-yard seasons in Kade's future and multiple Pro Bowls for that matter too. I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, please like and subscribe, as only about 40% of people watching are subscribed and helps the channel tremendously. Please check out the Football Analysis podcast as well, the link is in the bio, and I will see you next time. Love you guys.